Let's take a couple of moments and we're going to check out the audio settings when your system is set up in its network mode output on Pioneer's FH-X731BT. Now please note that this is the audio settings for the network mode setup. If you're looking for the audio settings for standard mode setup, be sure to check out the audio settings for standard mode video. There's a full video on that. Even though your particular in-dash receiver may or may not have a CD slot across the top like this one, the on-screen and button operation is identical for the following Pioneer models: FH-X730BS, FH-X731BT, FH-X830BHS, and MVH-X690BS. So from any source, and please note I'm on the auxiliary source for right now, but it could be any source, we're going to press in on the volume control and roll along until we find the audio menu. Here's the audio menu and press enter. First thing we see here are the EQ settings, and you can press enter to get into the EQ settings, but there is a full EQ settings video. If you want to learn more about setting that up, take a look at that. And we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our balance control. And we can press in on the volume control and we can move the balance from right to left. There's right to left balance, and we'll go back. Now please note, since you're set up in the network mode here, there is no fader control because all speakers are considered to be front speakers in the network mode. So when I roll over, there's no fader control. We go directly to the subwoofer output. Right now the subwoofer output is switched on. We can also choose to switch it off. Now when we choose to switch that off, when we roll over to the next setting, there's no subwoofer phase control there. No subwoofer phase control. So if we go back here and switch the subwoofer output on and roll to the next setting, we now get the subwoofer phase control, which we can set to normal or reverse phase. There we go, reverse phase. Be sure to check both of these settings in your vehicle. Normal or reverse phase for the sub may make a big difference in how your system sounds. We'll leave this set up on the normal phase for right now and roll over to the next setting, which is our speaker level output. And in here, we have an independent volume control for each individual speaker in the car. And we'll press enter here. So in the network mode, the front output speakers turn into the high output. So this is the high left output, and this is the high right output. The rear RCA outputs turn into our mid-range output. So in the network mode, mid-left output and mid-right output. And roll over one more time to our subwoofer output. And we'll go back around to our high left. So if I press in on the volume control, now I can make an adjustment to the high left output, or I can boost it or cut it back a little bit. Now for best audio quality, be sure to have all of these settings at 0 or lower. So rather than boosting up the volume of one particular speaker, lower the volumes of other speaker outputs to compensate for that one. For best audio quality, 0 or lower, and then you can turn up your master volume control without fear of distortion. Once you've made your adjustments here, let's go back. And we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our crossover settings. And we'll press enter here. So here we have the high crossover, we have the mid-high pass filter crossover, we have the mid-low pass filter crossover, and we have the subwoofer crossover. So we'll start with the first one here. The RCA outputs that would be used for front are also the high output, and we can enter in here, and we have a wide variety of crossover points to choose from. So this is a high pass filter on the high output. And we can choose crossover points from 1.25K all the way up to 12.5 kilohertz. Once you've chosen a crossover point, press in on the volume control and you can choose a slope for that crossover, 6, 12, 18, or 24 dB per octave on any given crossover point. You want to go back and change your crossover point, press in on the volume control a couple of times to get back around to that, and we'll change that crossover point to, we'll say, 8K for right now. So we have right here, we're showing an 8 kilohertz crossover point at 24 dB per octave. Now we'll go back and we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our mid-high pass filter. And the mid-range, we have to choose 2 crossover points, both a high pass filter and a low pass filter. So here, we'll choose the high pass filter on the mid-range. First, we'll switch it on, and we'll choose a crossover point for that high pass filter on the mid-range, and we'll choose a slope. When you're done with that, you can go back and we'll choose the low pass filter on the mid-range output. Press enter here, and we have the same options here. These are independent crossover points and independent slopes, but they are the same choices that you get to work with. And we'll choose a slope. Now we'll go back and we'll roll over to the final setting in the crossover, which is our subwoofer. And this is a low pass filter for the crossover, and we can go all the way down to 25 hertz and all the way up to 250 hertz. So we're going to take this back down to, we'll say 80 hertz for right now. Press in on the volume control, and we can choose the subwoofer crossover at 12, 18, 24, or 30 or 36 dB per octave, which is an extremely steep slope and a very, very powerful audio tool for this system. So we're going to change that back to 24 dB per octave at an 80 hertz crossover point. We'll go back for now, and we'll roll over to the next setting. Oop, we got to go back again. There we go. Back out to the crossover settings. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is our listening position selection, and we'll press enter here. Right now the listening position is switched off. If I choose to switch it on, I can focus the image to the front left of the vehicle, the front right of the vehicle, or to the overall front. For right now, I'm going to choose to switch that to the front left. Now we'll go back, and I'm going to roll over to the next setting, which is time alignment. Now, time alignment is available when you have chosen a listening position. So let's go back here. Here's listening position, and if I choose to switch listening position off and I go back up, when I roll over to the next setting, I go directly to save settings. Time alignment is not there. So in order to see time alignment, the listening position has to be switched on. So we're going to roll back here to position and choose the left front, and then we'll roll over to the next setting, which is time alignment. And for more information about the time alignment settings, be sure to check out the full time alignment video. And we'll roll over to the next setting here, which is where we can save our settings. Don't be afraid to whip out your phone and snap a picture of the settings that you've created for yourself so that you can make fine adjustments to what you're doing and not lose your information. When you've made some good settings and you like the way it sounds, save your settings here and confirm, yes, I want to save those settings. Once they've been saved, you can make adjustments to them any way you like. When you roll over to the next setting, we have the option to reload those settings. So you made some adjustments. Maybe you don't like the way it sounds now. You can go back to what you've saved before with load settings. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is our bass boost. Here we can add a little more bottom into the system if we want, or roll it back out. We'll go back up. And our next setting is our loudness control, and loudness can help to, at low volumes, can help to compensate your sound and make it sound a little bit better. You can choose to switch the loudness on low, mid, or high, or choose to switch loudness off. We'll leave it off for right now. And then we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our auto level control, and the auto level control will attempt to control the volume when we switch between sources or between different audio files. So we have a couple of different modes for auto level control. We have mode 1, mode 2, and we can switch that off. We'll leave it turned off for right now. We'll go back up and roll over to the next setting, which is the source level adjuster. The source level adjuster will allow us to adjust the volume of any given source as compared to FM. So if you'll recall, when we started this video, we were on the auxiliary source. Here we are back at the auxiliary source, and we can adjust the source level adjuster to make the auxiliary source a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. So when I switch between sources, I shouldn't hear a big jump in the volume. Now the source level adjuster is available for all sources, CD, USB, auxiliary, Bluetooth, but it is not available for FM. So if you're on the FM source, AM/FM source, the radio, you won't find the SLA option in the system menu. It's available on all sources except the radio. And we'll roll over to the next setting here, which is back around to our EQ settings. And when you're done making your adjustments, you can just press the band button to escape.